Hi, welcome everyone to the IAU Researcher in the Spotlight series. So for those who are new here, we are the junior members working group of the International Astronomical Union. We organize several series in different formats, mainly with topics addressing the issues or topics of interest for the junior members. Do remember to check out our social media platforms so that you don't miss out on any future events. In the Researcher in the Spotlight series, for every episode, we invite a researcher who made it big in their field of research. So often we look at their CVs and we wonder how they made it to this present stage, right? And we wonder what their journeys have been like. So for the entire the purpose of this series is to have a fun, laid back, heart-to-heart conversation with the researcher and follow along their journey. I'm Susmita, a postdoc at IUCA and one of the co-chairs of the IAU Junior Members Working Group. Today, it gives me great pleasure to welcome Professor Maria Lugaro as our researcher in the spotlight. Maria is a leading astrophysicist at Konkoly Observatory, Budapest. She has worked across many different countries and continents. She has also been widely honored with grants and awards, including the Landlaureate and the ERC, among others. She has also been a leader in international collaborations and in gender equity initiatives in astronomy. Recently, she has been elected as the first woman astronomer into the Hungarian Academy of Science in its 200 years of existence. Many congratulations, Maria, and welcome. Thank you so much for being
Thank
here with
you.
us today.
Thank you for the invitation, Sushmita. It's really a pleasure to be
Yeah.
here. Thank you.
So let's begin at the very beginning. Would you tell us a bit about your childhood, your family, your passions? Was astronomy always part of the plan? Did you stumble across it? Give us a brief introduction
Mhm.
to your childhood.
Okay, so maybe it's a bit unusual because astronomy was never part of the plan. When I grew up, I wanted to be a dancer, a ballet dancer. So I started doing ballet classes at like 5 years old or something like that. And I continued doing ballet until I was 16. I was doing classes almost every day. But then it didn't really fit with my studies. And then I had some health issues and I had to stop and I decided to give up on that. But still, there was absolute no idea in any part of my mind that I would be a scientist, not even astronomer, but just scientist. I don't know. At some point when I was a teenager, I would even said I would be a hairdresser. I don't know. At some point, I wanted to be a pilot, but then I discovered that if you have glasses, is a bit of a problem. I don't know. It was just all a bit kind of random. And then in high school, my favorite subjects were history, philosophy, but I was quite good in mathematics as well. And I think part of that could be, not all of it, but part of that is that I grew up in a mathematic family because my father was an engineer and my mom, she studied physics. She actually she finished physics when she was pregnant with me, so that was interesting. It was in the 70s, early 70s. It was very difficult for women to study physics. She was probably one or two in her whole course, and she married my father that she was still studying, and she made a bet with my grandmother, with my dad mother. She said, "Oh, you marry, you'll have children, you will not finish your studies." And my mom made a bet, and then she won because she managed to finish even if she was pregnant. So I say that in my family we are four children, and three of us are very in the end, we became very scientific oriented, maybe also because of this environment. I think I've been very, very lucky that my mom studied physics. Because for me, I never grew up thinking it was a strange thing for a woman to be a physicist. Then she had to stop working, having children, but then she went back and became a high school teacher. And she was the one who, when it was time to choose the university degree, I was very undecided. I didn't know if to study. I remember either history, philosophy, political science, mathematics, or physics. And my mom said, "Why don't you try physics?" She just said it. She gave me some very rational reasons for that. And then I thought, yeah, sure, why not? I can try. And my aim at that point was like becoming a teacher like my mom. So I was like, okay, I can study physics and then I can be a teacher like she's doing. It looks like it's an interesting job. And so when I started, it was really that was my aim, just becoming a teacher. But then because I did classical studies, I was a bit behind in physics when I started. And so the first year was very, very difficult for me. It took me, say, 9 months to prepare the first physics exam, General Physics 1, which in Italy involves written and oral exams. But then I passed and I took the top mark. And at that point, something clicked, and I thought, oh, actually, this is not just a backup. I'm good at this, and it's fun. And from then, it just really changed. I just had this realization that I could do it seriously. And so, yeah, this is like kind of the background story. And I like to tell this story sometimes when people ask me because it's really where I come from. Like it really this backstory like defined a lot of what I did later and how I feel now about being a scientist, and also to show to people like that you never know. Like when people are young, it's good not to put people in boxes. As sometimes it happens, people like children who are 15 or 16, they're already been told what they should be doing or not. But for me, it was really not until I was 20 or something that it became clear who I could become. So, yeah, it's an example story that maybe is a bit different. I never in my childhood I would have even imagined what would have happened.
So I'm very interested also about your mom's journey, but we will probably get back to that at the end if we have
Okay.
time
Yeah,
later
yeah.
on. So very interesting story. So here at this point, I would like to ask: do you think you had some key turning points in your career that you think led you to where you are right now? So usually when we think of key turning points, we think of major grants, fellowships, and so on. Um,
So, Professor, Professor Gallino, some people might know the name, he was a turning point in
okay.
most of his students' life. So he was the most enthusiastic scientist I ever met, pretty much. There were other, but he's really at the top. And he was the one that presented when I went to do to try to choose my master thesis. There was presentation from all professors in Torino, and I didn't know. I loved the theoretical physics. I loved quantum physics. That was one of the topics I really loved. I loved nuclear physics. Astrophysics, not as much as the nuclear or like the smaller particle physics. But then he came and he showed that inside stars you have nuclear physics. And that I still remember today, even if it was what is it, 30 something years ago, that I was sitting there, and that was a turning point where I choose what I wanted to study in the whole possible theory of physics. Relativity, quantum, that was like, oh, I can actually put different things together. And so I went to talk with him immediately, and he was just such a personality. He would just immediately make you feel part of everything. And some other professor you talk with, they didn't like, they look a bit more bored. No, I don't want to say bored, but uh,
Not
he
as
was
enthusiastic anymore.
not as enthusiastic, and this was so contagious that you immediately would feel it. So that was the first turning point. And then I just loved working with him, even if it was tough, because he was a kind of an interesting person. And he was working with people in Melbourne, in Australia. And he told me why, like, and these colleagues in Melbourne, I applied for a scholarship to go and do my PhD at Monash University, and yeah, that was amazing. That I got a scholarship to go to Australia from Italy, and you know, like it's the other side of the world. And at that time, there was no mobile phone. There was almost no internet. Like I know it sounds strange, but you know, for my family also, it was all a bit strange. And so that was a turning point, I think, that it all started like that. I think like there were many turning points because then I moved around and I could still get more fellowship or grants to move around. Maybe another turning point is when I got the ERC grant to come closer. So this was in 2017, and that I feel so it's not that long ago, but I feel that really was an establishment. So this is where I'm really like, okay, I think I have arrived somewhere. Maybe maybe I can still work hard, but I don't need to fight anymore. Like, you know, I it just felt that I became not an, like I not old, not an adult, but like really that was really something for me that made a turning point in the way I see things, in the way I work or I see my work in the bigger picture. Yes. So just there are many more, but just to
Yes.
go something at the start, something at the end, I think.
And Australia was also special because you met your husband there, you had your first kid there.
Well, no. So I
Yeah.
met my husband in Australia, so that was lucky that I went there, by the way. Yeah, that's another thing I would have never imagined, of course, when I
Yeah.
was a child. But then my first son was born in the UK
Okay.
because, yeah, because we moved to the UK. I managed to obtain my first postdoc in the UK, and I married my husband while we were doing PhD. But then I thought I rather wait to have the first child after the PhD.
Yes.
Um, so then that was a little bit after. Yeah.
Yeah.
But of course, yeah, it was just luck that I had to travel to the other side of the world to find my husband. Yes.
You have moved around quite a lot across many different countries, continents. Do you think you are somebody who's excited for embracing new cultures, meeting new friends, or is it a bit tricky and difficult, especially with respect to keeping your momentum in science going?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, yeah, I think it is quite of a personality trait. I always love to move country. I always took it as a new adventure. I've always been very excited to go to a different place, um, even places that I never been before. When I moved to Hungary, when I decided to move to Hungary, I never been there before, for example. But just the excitement of a new culture. For me, yeah, I think that the first step, moving from Italy to Australia, was so extreme in some sense for myself. I never moved out of Italy before. Like I traveled a bit for holiday, but this was really, it was so extreme that everything that happened later didn't look so big anymore in that sense. So, of course, sometimes I would be a bit nostalgic about my friends and family. I haven't lived in Italy now since 1997, so it's almost 30 years. Yeah, 28 years I haven't lived in Italy. But then nowadays, I don't know. I feel it not too difficult to keep in touch. I can see my friends. I can see my family. Um, I don't have that really big problem of having to move around. But the situation is that my husband was be able to follow me. And that changes everything. Like I was lucky in that because I know that one of the main problems that people have is the two-body problem. As soon as there's two people, it's already hard to find a job when you are alone. When there's two people, this can completely change your life. So I mean, it's difficult to solve this problem, and I didn't have to deal with it. The only thing I had to deal with was this. When there was time to move, if there was more than one option, my husband would have a very strong saying about it. This was his right because I would say, okay, we have the option to go to Italy, to the Netherlands, for example. That happened. And I said, where would you want to go? Because I felt he made this big deal of following me around. So it was really his choice in a sense. But I have been lucky in that respect. I don't think it's as easy. And I just want to say one last thing that of course, it's become harder and harder because having children, it's harder and harder to move. When you're by yourself, I just pack my bag and go. But when we moved with 4 children to Hungary, that was a very, very big logistic issue, was a big practical issue, which for me was exciting. Like I was really alive at that moment because everything was so challenging. Everything there could have been so many problems, and there were problems, but I always enjoyed it. It didn't create too stress for me. Yeah, I like challenges, I think. So I would take it up and dive into it. So I'm lucky, I guess, to have this kind of trait, I think.
Thank you for sharing your journey and
Mhm.
congratulations on your Hungarian citizenship.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You heard about
Um,
that?
yes,
Yes,
congratulations. I know you
thank
worked really
you.
hard. You studied really hard
Yes,
for that one.
yes, yeah, yeah.
So let's talk a bit about science and leadership now. So you are a
Mhm.
group leader at Konkoly Observatory Budapest. You are the first woman astronomer to be a member of the Hungarian Academy of Sciences. So what has your experience been like? Did you face any challenges, uh, especially as a woman?
Mhm. Okay.
What has your journey been like?
I think again, I've been lucky that my mentors, even if they were all men, because there's not that many women professors I could take as a role model. But my mentor's always been very, very supportive. I never had a bad experience, not like I never had extremely bad experiences, uh, but it's still, as scientists in general, sometimes as a woman, you have to control a little bit your anger. I do have to do that because there are situations when people they still propose some kind of ideas by which the brain of women or what women want is different from men. And for me, it touches me very personally because if these ideas are correct, if these opinions are right, that actually the female brain is different, or that women really just want to stay with their children all the time, then I'm a weirdo. I'm a strange uh, being because I am a woman, but I don't behave like a normal woman. And so people don't realize that this kind of opinions, they can really touch other people personally. Like they say them as a general statement. Oh, women, I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about women and men in general. But then, of course, you're talking about me because I am a woman who is different from what you're saying. So, what does that make me? A weird animal, you know. And so sometimes it's a bit hard when you end up hearing conversation like that or people hinting things like that. And it's not malicious. Often people just say that because the culture is like that. And you say things that you hear around, something you heard, or some like general ideas that go around, but they don't realize that they really touch people personally. And
Yes.
in that cases, I there was times when I really had to try. At the beginning, I wasn't very good at controlling my anger, and sometimes it would come up not as a very good way that I reacted instead of respond. I think now I got more used to it, and so I do try to respond in a calm way to situations like that. But luckily, it's more just a mental. It's been a mental problem. I was never really disadvantaged in practice. I was lucky about that. Uh, Actually, with my colleagues in general, they've always been very supportive. Also, when I was proposing initiative to improve, say, gender balance, there always been quite a lot of support. So, you know, different aspects have been a bit different.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're also a very successful group leader with for consisting of young researchers from different backgrounds, right? Different countries, diverse backgrounds. So, with respect to dealing with young researchers, how would you describe your leadership style? Because I remember you are very anti micromanagement.
Yeah, yes, I am in general. I also, when I talk about education and children and students, I think I am. I don't like authoritarianism. I am very anti-authoritarian because I believe, and I think I can explain why, that human beings work the best if they are free. As soon as, but that's for children, but adults is the same. As soon as I feel, but I think everyone can feel that. As soon as you feel that you're doing something because it's been imposed on you and you didn't choose to do it, you do it with some kind of resistance. You don't do it as well as you would when you choose to do it. And this is in my experience, I feel a lot like that. And I've seen all kind of people behaving like that. And so, like, but it's immediate. I don't know. As a human being, I think we share that we like freedom. And so I personally don't like authoritarian style where I feel that people should do what I tell them. I feel that people needs to convince that's what they should be doing. Like I like to be like a marketing person, say with my children, but also with younger people. I want to try to explain them why that is interesting and why it could be helpful. But then it's absolutely for them to choose if they want to do it or not. Because I don't believe it would be done well if they just do it because I force them to do it. So this is something that I find quite natural because I really hate when people make me doing something. And so I don't want to be that person that try to make someone do it something. And I found that behaving this way, what happens quite naturally is that you get the best out of people, and everyone's different. So I don't find very useful to ask something from someone that's not their thing, but to get something out from what they really are, it comes out in this way. And I don't know. So sometimes I like to say that I like to try to get the best out of each person. And I think has been happening just because, yeah, I've been trying to leave people quite free. I mean, still doing this marketing job, a lot of marketing. Come on, but why you don't do this or that? I'm trying to sell you what to do or what not to do, but then it has to be your choice. And I never like, there has been time when people in my group, excellent people in my group, they left. They left for personal reasons because they married. And honestly, I was happy for them. They felt maybe that I would be angry or I would be upset because I'm losing someone so good and I gave so much to them. And I'm just thinking, I'm so happy for you. It's your life. Like you know, things like that for me are important. Just human being to human being rather than manager to someone. So yeah, I don't know if
Thank you. That's a very fresh
okay.
perspective. Very nice.
Okay.
So you have won several prestigious grants and awards. Would you say at this point you have cracked the code? And do you have a list of do's and don'ts that make or break a proposal? Very brief,
Mm.
because otherwise it would be
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a
yeah.
whole talk in itself.
Yeah, like okay, I have one answer. One is, I mean, yes, I built up a lot of experience, and by now I've also been the referee of proposals of other people and panel member. And so that's really helped to see the other side. For me, the way it works for me, how to write a proposal is to spend a long time on it, spend a lot of time on it. The only way I can do things that I feel happy about is working a lot on it. I cannot, and in fact, I have difficulty sometimes working with other people because I am a precrastinator, not a procrastinator. I do everything too early and too much. And I get really anxious about people doing things late. So I don't work very well in that way. And so I would spend like millions of like hundreds of hours, thousands of hours on a proposal. And if you do that, you can get the best you can. This is my only advice that I can give. Like as much work as you put, the best it will get. That's how it works. If you do
Here,
little,
yeah.
it's still small, small quality. If you do 10,000 hours, it'll be amazing quality. That's what I think.
Here, may I ask, have you always been working ahead of time, or did you work hard to change your procrastinating habit? Were you
Uh,
always the one since
you
childhood to complete work way ahead of time?
Yeah, I've always been, it has to do with anxiety. It has to do
Okay.
with anxiety. It's in my family, like my grandmother, my mother, my aunt, they all suffer anxiety problems and would sometimes take medication. And from quite young, I thought, can I try to resolve that? I can see the genetic and I get a bit worried as I have anxiety as well. Anxiety meaning fear of something that is not here yet.
Hmm.
Fear that something imaginary or maybe real will be. And I'm already scared now, even if it's not the time to be scared. I'm already scared. And I see that. So like then I started using mindfulness and all these tools. But for me, the procrastination is a way to deal with anxiety. If I like, because I'm already worried about the deadline in a year time. I'm already worried about that deadline. And so instead of spending energy worrying about it, I will spend energy preparing for it. And that gives me reassurance for my mental health. It helps me. It's one way to cope with it. Sometimes it's not that helpful. Sometimes I do something too early and then I have to redo it because it was too early, so it didn't fit with the actual deadline. But often, anyway, I can use whatever I have done. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Um, Now, I would like to ask a bit about the gender equity aspect. So
Mhm.
you are the chair of the Gender Equality Program as well as the Ethics Committee at Konkoly. So while this may differ from institute to institute, do you have a broad general advice for young faculty or postdocs who might want to start something similar at their institutes or maybe improve existing committees?
Yeah, can I say I am totally not an expert on this, and I would say that for the gender equality in our institute, we are a group of equal people. Like, okay, maybe there's some people who put more time if they have more time. Like from the directors down to students who joined this committee, everybody is equal and everybody is doing something they feel it's important, and none of us is really an expert. We are trying to learn about how to deal with this better. So I think that what happened in our institute, that was it was pushed by the fact that now every institute needs a gender equality plan. And so we thought how to set that up. But then it was really like, okay, look around. Hey, anyone is interested in this topic? Let's get together and try to do something. And I think I am not contributing particularly more than the other people, really. So I think that the advice, if anyone wants to do activities of the kind, is really bottom up. You look around your institute. We send an email around every year, checking if there's anyone who would be interested in joining, discussing this. Try to make it not over administrative, more like try to be efficient with things. And that's how it worked for us. We're just a group of people in the institute who are interested in these topics. And I think this bottom-up approach it worked for us. Just looking around to find each other and to try to discuss these topics and then try to find professional help when needed on some specific topics. So this is what we're doing about institute culture, for example, looking for psychologists to give talks and things like that. But this would be my suggestion if it makes sense.
Personally, I learned a lot from you while I was
Oh,
there it was very good leadership. Now, do you think you have lost any opportunity because of your gender, whether it be as a researcher or as a leader?
luckily not, because I never like I think that because of the story I told at the beginning, on one hand, I never really expected to be a scientist. So things that happened to me kind of happened. And on the other hand, because of the family I come from, it seems natural for me to be a physicist. So it's a bit of a contradiction to deal with. So for some reason, I always felt confident enough. Also, I always have in the back of my mind that I have nothing to lose because I really never planned to be here anyway. It's a psychological. So I have that in the back of my mind. And on the other side, I think that is my complete right to be here as a woman. I don't feel any not confident about this. And so maybe this is transparent from the way I deal with things. And in this respect, no, I don't think I never lost opportunities. I always kind of jumped on them without thinking too much. And yeah, and I was lucky that in my field of science, nuclear physics, in the nuclear astrophysics field, there's many women. There's many women leader in the nuclear physics experimental part. So yeah, it's a field where I haven't seen, for my personal way, to have lost opportunities or anything. I have been invited quite regularly to be part of collaborations from nuclear physics point of view as well. So yeah, I would not say that has happened to me, luckily.
Thank you. That's
Yeah.
very inspiring, actually.
That's luck, also luck. I mean,
Yes,
I
surrounded by
don't
good
want to.
people and
Yeah.
good mentors.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Mm.
So continuing with this, how do you balance your personal, professional life? How do you balance your ambition with real life challenges, being a partner as well as a mother? For example, so there were also periods of pregnancy, maternity leave, and so on. So how did you balance your personal and professional life during those phases?
Yeah, that's yeah, it's a complicated question. So maybe because of what I was saying before, that so I like kind of my story came up with advantages. So um, when I went on maternity leave, the first time was only 3 months. I because my husband. Okay, first lucky part. My husband didn't like his job as much as I like my job. He happily said, I will stay home with the children. And because I want to go out, I want to be outside, I want to be at the playground, I want to be in the forest, whatever I want to take them. And I was like, great, I can then keep on working. And we were lucky because the salary was the same. We were earning the same salary. And if we were going to send our first child to childcare, almost a whole salary would be needed. So he
Yeah.
decided that he'd rather stay with the child. So that was very lucky. And the second time, I had 8 months of leave from, no, maybe six, from February until September. I had six months, something like that, about 6 months, 7 months of maternity leave. And I don't know, I talked with a colleague, a woman colleague, and she said, look, take it easy. No one is going to discover anything crazy in 7 months. Don't worry. Like nothing terribly, no one's like the whole of our field is not gonna change in 6 months. So, and I remember that, and I was like, yeah, that's true. And when I came back, in fact, we were more or less in the same situation. I kept like what I did during my leaves. I also took another. So for the birth of my twins, I took 4 months off, and then I took another uh, 5 months off a bit later. And it's not that I completely stopped working. So what I did was that the projects that were ongoing, I keep following them. And that usually meant like half a day a week to be in touch with this project that were ongoing to finish them. I didn't start anything new. So that's how I dealt with it. I could kind of finish tidying up things. But then when I got back to work, I was so refreshed that I was so energetic, I was so enthusiastic that I think it caught up with everything. That anyway, in 6 months, it wasn't the end of the world. So for me, like that, it worked. But I never really cut off completely from the science. That I have
Yeah.
to say. I always said. I remember we were traveling around Australia with all the children, and I had a press release because I had a paper on science. So the paper came out in August as we were traveling around, and I did this press release, and I was on the phone with some journalists from the US in a campsite in Australia. So this kind of thing I wouldn't stop, like anything important. And I remember I was moving to Hungary after that, and there was a small workshop in Hungary, and they asked me to give a presentation. And I was again, so I was sitting in the car giving the presentation. So people were laughing, just saying, "I hope you're not driving," or I was somewhere in some campsite giving a presentation. So I would say, yeah, I always kept connected, but really reduced the hours to say half to 1 day a week to say a lot, and that helped me logistically.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much for sharing your journey. Very exciting. What would you say has been your proudest moment as a scientist?
Well, yeah, I mentioned this before, but I think when I got the ERC grant,
Yes, yes,
this was
yeah,
yes,
yes.
this was amazing, and actually the whole project time was fantastic, and all the people I could work with, thanks to that, all the young people, the students from. We had students joining our group who were 17 years old,
Yes.
and yes, so we had a group that was so many different people and from so many different countries, and the whole journey was amazing. I'm so proud of not just that I got the grant, but that I actually did the project. Like once you get the grant, that's just the beginning, then you want to do it. And
Yes.
whew, yeah, that was like managing all the people and all the different I think I was amazed that happened. Yeah, it's a dream. It's like a
Yeah.
dream. It's amazing. Yeah.
And are there future projects that you are excited to share with us? Any project?
Well, I just submitted the ERC application, and I
All the very
work on
best.
this for 1 year. I
All the very
started
best.
working on it a year in advance. So for me, the submission is already, I'm proud of that. Yes, yeah, yeah. So this is a new, I mean, in my field, I am particularly excited about meteorites and how to link nuclear astrophysics and meteorites. And it's quite of a different topic. So it took me several years to get into everything that's new in that field and how to understand it and how to what does it mean to interpret it with what I do? How can it help that field? And it's been a very long travel. Also helped, thanks God, helped by a lot of young people who have been very patient with me, explaining me things. And so, yeah, I think I'm proud that I submitted. I don't know what will happen. Actually, I'm proud that I wrote that. I'm proud that I wrote it. Yes.
Congratulations for all the hard work and all the
Thank
very
you.
best.
We'll see.
So ideally, we can open the floor now for Q&A from the audience. But if not, we have more questions. So I will give everybody maybe 5-10 seconds. You can directly unmute yourself and ask questions directly to Maria.
I have a question.
Yes.
Thank you, Maria, for accepting our invitation and dedicating your time to our initiative. I have a question regarding the beginning of the interview. You said that you have always loved theoretical physics, and at a time when large telescopes and surveys are beginning, with many more just around the corner, in what ways do you think that theory can remain attractive and inspiring to young people?
Yeah, so I think that it has to be a 50-50 theory observation. It's really, if there are no, say, like now, one of the challenges in my field is to find the most metal poor stars. Maybe some people know about this. For example, like iron over H, 10 to the minus 5, 10 to the minus 6, 10 to the minus 7, and to measure the elemental abundances. And then you measure them, and then you need the stellar models, the nucleosynthesis models, to interpret what they mean. Because that, for example, can tell us about the first stars, so the beginning of the universe. But if you don't, like, there's so many uncertainties in stellar models that if you're not careful, you can easily get the wrong conclusions. You can easily get not the robust conclusions. So in that respect, really, I think if people don't consider the theoretical models, we are only using half of what we can do. And that's a big waste because these telescopes are really expensive. And that's the same for the study of meteorites. People are measuring variations inside meteorites to precision to the level of the 6-7 significant digits. These are incredible experiments that only could happen in the past 15 years. But again, if no one is saying, why, where does that variation come from, which star, which nuclear reactions, then again, we're using only half of it. And so I think from my point of view, it's, we have to come together. There's no other way. If we want to do scientists if we want to do science the best way, if we want to reach the most robust conclusions, it's impossible to do it without the theory. That's what I would say to the younger people. I don't know if that, yeah.
Other questions? So may I ask now, what practical tips do you take to avoid being anxious or overwhelmed in the face of multiple responsibilities at work, home, especially if you have overlapping deadlines?
Yeah, so something that has changed my life is mindfulness. I'm happy that this kind of practice seems to become more and more popular. For me, it came because after doing ballet and stopping to doing ballet, I started doing yoga because it was another form of movement that it's healthy and it's good for you. And then after many, many years of yoga, somehow it clicked that, during yoga classes, sometimes you do a little bit of mindfulness as well, exercises. And I realized that could be a way I could try to deal with my anxiety problems that would not mean to take medicines. And so I started trying that, and I started 20 years ago. And the longer one does it, the better it is. And I really notice a big difference in my life thanks to that. So this is my way to deal with things. Sit down every day, at least half an hour, or try to do it on and off during the day to deal with it. I'm not like, it's a big topic and you probably need but for me that's the way that I dealt with anxiety in my life, and it's been working. Yeah.
Something that we had discussed like over a mentor-mentee conversation was you said you would put it in a box, and then if it comes knocking, you say, "Not now, I will deal with you at 8 p.m. later tonight."
Yes, so that's great. For example, this morning I got up and I know I have a meeting at 11. I have some very important work to do for which I have a deadline in a couple of weeks, 1, 2 or 3 weeks. So that's ongoing. Then I have to talk with you at 2 o'clock. And then at 5, I'm going to meet with my language partner. So I speak Hungarian. And and I wake up and like, oh my God. And I'm like, well, wait. I don't have like one thing at the time. I don't need to think about all these things squashed together. Now I'm just gonna get up and have a coffee, and I don't need to already think what's gonna happen at 5 o'clock, right? So when that thought comes, I'm like, it's not 5, the later. Like first I do the other things, and that's in that sense that I do it that way, and it's kind of fun. You kind of talk to the thought that is coming, saying, yeah, oh my God, at 5, then I have to speak Hungarian. And like, okay, but wait until 5 to be worried about it. And it makes you laugh. It makes me laugh and immediately relax. Immediately I feel much more calm thinking it in that way. So some days it's really hard because there's so many things, but yeah, I can
Laszlo
see.
has a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for the great discussion so far. So my question is, which part of the job do you find most rewarding? So teaching, the pure research, the management of a group, or supervising students, and how did it change over time?
That's a very good question. It changed a lot over time because when I was a PhD student or a postdoc early, I would mostly run models, make figures, interpret my figures, and do the science. And now, mostly, I read and write. Sometimes I feel my job is I'm a scribe. I'm actually writing all the time. Things, reading and writing is a constant. So now my favorite part, like one of my favorite part, I would say, is meeting with students, because that's when I can go back to be a student together. So then that's when I can do science, like the raw material, really like make that figure, what that figure means and all that. But I think I also like writing proposals. That's something I like to do. As I said, it's my own science doing. And that's when I can go really to the edge of the challenge for myself. It's a duel between me and myself, and like how much better I can do it and how much deeper I can go. So that's and also there's a lot of writing, but every word count, and that's I don't know, when the game goes hard, the hard people start playing or something. Is that the saying from the Blues Brothers or something? And I like then when it really becomes so hard. I love it when it's become difficult and you almost can't bear it anymore. That I like that. So these two things. One that I do by myself, for myself, and the other one is with the students that I love to have. Oh, I'm meeting a student for an hour. I do sciences I used to do 20 years ago. That's good. Yeah.
Thank you.
you.
Yeah, I think it's when the going gets tough, the tough gets going.
Yeah. I love that
Yes.
saying. It's like, yeah, now it's fun. Now it's fun because it's hard. Otherwise, it's boring.
Do we have more questions? So honestly, I feel like I can keep this conversation going, but we also need to last call for questions. Okay, if not, thank you so much, Maria. So
Thank you. Thank you
I
for the
have always
invitation.
been a fangirl, and I have you. Whenever we talk, it's been like magic. So I hope that everybody got to experience the magic through the screen.
Ah,
Very, very motivating. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening. That I hope it wasn't boring.
It was really good
Okay.
and
Thank you,
useful.
Sushmita. Thank you,
Thank you so
everyone.
much. Yeah. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.